Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of What's Happening. I'm Elliot Margolis, and I'm here with my co-host Gail Burke, and our guest tonight is Bob Butterworth, an activist in the city of Beverly. Now, how did we find Bob Butterworth? Well, I'll tell you. We found Bob because, number one, he does watch the show on occasion, and number two, he saw Gail and I on television at the public hearing on sanctuary schools. And I'm going to say this, Bob, and you can disagree, but I'd rather you didn't. He was very impressed with Gail and I in what we said and how we said it and our position on sanctuary cities and the sanctuary schools. So I invited him to be a guest on the show, and that's what we're going to talk about today is sanctuary cities, Beverly being a sanctuary school city. So, Bob, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I just want to say, Elliot and Gail may not be always right, but they're never wrong. And I'd like to start with a joke. Smiling and laughing is always very healthy. Did you hear about the Democrats coming up with a value meal plan? Well, the way it works is you buy something, anything you want on the menu, and then the person behind you will pay for it. Well, anyway.
Very good, Bob.
What would you like me to start off with?
Well, I think we'll start off talking about the sanctuary cities and the fact that Salem is debating on whether or not to become a sanctuary city. I believe they're having some kind of a vote on Thursday, and there have been multiple letters in the paper, interestingly enough, there have been letters of opposition. There's a group in Salem that are pushing and using rather bullying tactics to force the elected officials to vote Salem as a sanctuary city. It's very interesting because they got together and wrote a letter to the editor, and there were something like 39 signatures or something. Now, I don't know about anybody else, but I know we've written letters to the editor over a period of years, and I have always, with one exception, have always signed my own letter and had no one else on it, because I think each person has their own opinion. But there is opposition to this particular group, and the citizens are going around with a petition to get the question put on the November ballot. So we'll have to wait and see what happens.
Well, Salem already, the city councilors have already voted, and they have sanctuary city in place right now.
Well, I don't think it was a final vote. I think they have to vote it again.
They don't have to vote it again unless there's enough signatures on the petition. They need 12%.
Okay.
If they accomplish that, which I think they will.
I think they will.
Then in November, it will go out to the entire population to vote one way or another. But right now, as we speak, Salem is a sanctuary city.
Okay, I stand corrected.
Now, as it pertains to the letter you were referring to, it was Dr. Anna Alicia Gypsy Murphy, a professor of sociology at Endicott College, is the one that penned the letter.
Okay.
However, as you stated, when it originally went in the paper, the Salem News, it didn't show that she penned the letter.
No, it just had a bunch of signatures at the end, yeah.
And there has been tremendous backlash to her derogatory comments She's not happy, and the groups that favor Sanctuary City are not happy with the fact that a petition drive looks like it's going to be successful.
Right.
Now, usually what happens in communications, things start off passive. Then they turn passive, assistive, and then they climb up the ladder before they get aggressive. So we're now in a fairly aggressive mode in Salem.
Right.
I personally think it's going to be rejected by the population because so many of the people that were just sitting back, more of the calm type that don't want to get involved, whatever, right. I'll see what happens type.
It's the silent majority.
The silent majority has now been ticked off to the extent that they will become very active and fighting the aggressive left that are basically socialists. They want a redistribution of wealth. They are moving towards anarchy, whatever you want to call it. And that is how they feel. And so part of that anarchy movement is out of the playbook of Saul Alinsky, the noted socialist.
Right. Well, I think one thing that we have to take into consideration is, surprisingly, Governor Charlie Baker, who is very wishy-washy on most things, he signed a bill ensuring that illegal immigrants do not get driver's licenses. And there were actually some Democrats that voted for it. So, and then you have the other Democrats who are not too happy because all kinds of excuses. They have to have licenses so they can get to work and all of that. Okay, but what do you do when you give licenses to people, first of all, who are not here legally? They have no right to licenses. And something happens. They get into an accident, they hurt somebody, and the police are not allowed to ask what their immigration status is. Then what do you do? And this is what happens with these sanctuary cities. They commit crimes, illegal immigrants, and I want everybody to understand this is not against immigrants. It's illegal immigrants, people who come to this country illegally. They cross the border, they're not undocumented, they're illegal. They have no papers and they have no business, being here.
I couldn't agree with you more. And the fact that they're illegal, they also are responsible for 41% more federal monies through welfare programs going to support them. And it actually would be more if they could do it legally. But it gets very expensive.
Well, I'll have to note that since Donald Trump became president, the illegals crossing the borders have diminished by a tremendous amount. I've heard 60%, 70%, depending on where it is they're talking about.
But getting back for a minute to the city of Beverly and the school committee, and the fact that they asked for sanctuary status for the schools. My question is, why is it that, who has the right to say, I don't like this law, I don't think I'm going to obey it, but it's okay to obey this other law? And why is their opinion on a law valid? And let's just say you got caught speeding, because it's easy in Beverly now where the speed limit's 25. So you get
That's for
caught
sure.
speeding and you say, well, gee, officer, I don't like the law.
Yeah.
So why can't I get away with it? The schools are. I mean,
That's interesting because I had a long discussion, at least an hour, with Reverend Kelly Weissman of First Baptist Church. And he was going on how, oh, it's no, the illegals coming across the border, it's not a serious crime at all. I says, well, if that can be broken, then why can't myself and anybody else break whatever law they want? I said, then we'll have anarchy. And they feel that if they don't like the law, they can turn around and not follow it. When the real answer is change the immigration laws. There's a gentleman by the name of Jerry Ryan who has a very nice article that was in the paper back on March 15th. And it's Ryan's resolutions. And he lists a number of things that the group that is so much into sanctuary cities should be doing, rather than creating a sanctuary city.
Well, they don't either believe the facts of what is happening throughout the country, or they choose to ignore them. And it's all about emotion. And that's the problem with some of the things that Democrats do. It's all emotional.
Exactly.
well, but I'm not going to blame just the Democrats for this, and I'll tell you why.
Okay, I understand.
Because here's the matter of fact is the immigration laws are antiquated.
Yep.
Okay? They need to be changed. Now, did they need to be changed last year, the year before, or 25 years ago? And the fact of the matter is, they needed to be changed one heck of a long time ago, but our friends in Washington don't do anything unless it's an absolute emergency.
Yep.
I mean, just give an example of the budget today. They have to pass a budget so that the government won't go off. Well, frankly, we could do without the government. We could do with the government shutdown.
Yeah.
But that being said, they work on an emergency basis. Well, guess what? This is an emergency. Do something about it. Maybe we have too many illegals here, but you know what? Change the law, make it easier for people to come in, but we have to control who comes in.
To that point, and I know you're not going to like my references, in Nelson Benton's column,
You're right.
Every once in a while, he can be right,
Well,
yeah, I found him a couple of weeks ago.
he quoted
A sentence was right.
our Congress person, Seth Moulton. I'm quoting here. At the end of the day, we are a nation of immigrants, and it is our duty to improve the laws that allows our ancestors to come to this great country. There is bipartisanship support for comprehensive integration reform, and I am hopeful that my colleagues in Congress will work together to get it done sooner than later.
What exactly does that mean? All he's doing is saying the same thing that many in Congress have been saying for years. It doesn't really address the specific issue, and you have to think about, over the years, we have made changes in our immigration laws. And Franklin Roosevelt did it.
Well, we have a new president.
That's right.
And so we're going to have to wait and see whether he has the ability to bring change, that has been needed for years, as we have just discussed. So we're going to have to wait and see. But at least our congressman is, not that I agree with him with everything, because most things I don't, but on this issue, we can only hope that, they'll get something done that's positive.
Except in the case of Seth Moulton, talk is cheap.
Yeah.
Okay, don't tell me we need to do something. Do it.
You're in
Sponsor a
Congress.
law.
Yeah.
Sponsor a change. Do something instead of saying, "Oh, we need to do it." The problem with
Okay,
our
I'm going
Congress-
home and I'm going to call him up and I'm going to tell him he has to do it.
There you go.
Well, I mean, it's true. He's been this is his second term. We are a one-party state. All of our congressmen and women are Democrats. Okay, you complain and groan and moan. Do something. Where is your bill?
Well, this is also what Ryan said in his recommendations, is that those in Salem that are for Sanctuary City need to direct their attention towards changing the law, okay, rather than breaking the law. We're either a nation of laws or we're not.
That's right.
And without laws, without structure, okay, you can imagine what our society would be.
But think about this too. Our elected officials are here to what? Are they here to protect us and take care of us? Or are they here to take care of people who don't belong here? And that's where these sanctuary cities are going.
Okay,
They're protecting.
the way the law is in Massachusetts, ICE, which is the Immigration and Custom Enforcement,
Right.
cannot go into a school unless invited in by the principal or superintendent. Okay. When kids are registered in schools in Massachusetts, no questions are asked as to their immigration status.
Right.
It's illegal to do. Okay. Now, our police departments are under no obligation or law to contact ICE if they picked up somebody, unless it's somebody that has committed a very serious crime like rape, murder, so forth and so on. Then they will. But other than that, okay, they will simply take care of the matter at hand that they were dealing with and release them.
And
So
we've seen this happen.
ICE is at a disadvantage,
Yes, they
but
are.
that's the way the law is
That's
right
right.
now. And once again, that's why we need some changes in the law.
Right, but let's getting back to education for a minute. In my view, and feel free to disagree with me, but
I disagree.
But in my view, by allowing the illegals into the school system, some of whom don't speak English, and having to cater to their English learning so that we can teach everybody in the classroom the same, it actually takes time away from the teachers to teach, our tax-paying kids, because they have to take care of teaching somebody who is not a taxpayer, teaching them the language, costing the taxpayer money, and depriving our kids of a good education.
And the cost of each student is between $10,000 and $15,000. If they are a special needs child, it can run $50,000 to $100,000 per child.
Right.
Now, if we didn't have needs of the general population, okay, then fine. But there are a lot of people hurting.
Right. And that's why I believe our school committee doesn't care about education of our kids.
Okay,
Well-
John Mulaney was well-intended, from my ward, was well-intended. He was concerned about all the rumors going around to the fact that, I'm going to get thrown out of the country. My parents are going to get thrown out of the country. Well, I don't know why the schools did not simply hold an auditorium assembly and discuss the matter, invite people in like the police chief, so forth and so on, to put their kids' mind at ease. And I would have also done it at the junior high level. Or send things home, this, that, so forth and so on, informing everybody that Beverly may not be a sanctuary city, but for all practical purposes, we act like we're a sanctuary city as it pertains to protecting illegals and legals.
But that does not fit into their agenda. And their agenda has been, for a long time, against Donald Trump. And that's why they would prefer to go along with these kids and build up their fears. I really believe this. Build up their fears rather than to allay them. They allow them to talk amongst each other about how horrible it is, and it's all Donald Trump's fault, and yada, yada, yada. And that is their agenda. And we had John Mullady come in, and he talked about that.
I saw the program.
Right. And
you both were fantastic, as always.
Thank you. But,
What do you want?
But, to me, if I were a teacher of a classroom, I would do what you suggested. Even in his classroom, he could have done that. He chose not to do it.
His intentions are good, but I remember, and I think liberal intentions are good. Their intentions are good, but I remember many moons ago, on the back of a Salada tea bag, they have little sayings, and one of the sayings was, "Good intentions lead the road to hell."
Yep.
And that's something you have to think about. It's one thing to have good intentions. It's how are you going to achieve it, and what are the results, what are the consequences of your actions? And that's what the liberals don't understand, is they can't compute the consequences of their actions.
I don't know if you picked up the fact that Reverend Julie Flowers, who is also a pastor at First Baptist, has taken out papers to run for at-large council seat where Hilliard is currently...
Against Matt St. Hilaire?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, Reverend Flowers was one of the main drivers to get sanctuary status at the high school. The First Baptist Church is the main force behind moving not only from the high school, but getting on the board, in my opinion, and then trying to get Beverly sanctuary city status.
I agree. I think you're absolutely right. And I want to ask these people that are so in favor of the sanctuary cities, if they understand some of the horrific crimes that have been committed all over the country by illegals who are arrested and let go, only to commit more crimes. Some of them have been deported, and they come back and they commit more crimes. Who are these sanctuary cities protecting? Certainly not the victims of the crimes.
Well, they're going to come back and throw the statistic at you that is true, that illegals commit less crime than regular citizens in the United States.
There are fewer illegals than citizens in the United States that commit crimes.
That statistic, as you point out, is misleading, but they're going to throw it at you anyway. It's misleading because basically illegals have to stay under the radar. Now,
Tell that to Kate Steinley's family.
Exactly. Now, the chamber in Salem came out in support of sanctuary city status.
Of course.
And what they stated was, well, these illegals, you know, they're paying local and state taxes. They are sales taxes. And so they spend that money in the community and help the community. The fact of the matter is they do not contribute to Social Security. They do not pay state and federal income taxes, which is far greater than a sales tax. And so, for the most part, they are taking this and giving back this. But that's not the way it's presented.
Of course.
And now there's a major organization, the chamber. Okay, so...
Which is very disappointing to me personally, because I'm a past president of the Cape Ann Chamber of Commerce, and I would never have let that go through.
I'm a past member of the Beverly Chamber of Commerce. I was also, I'm a former Rotarian.
Me too.
And Reverend Flowers is on the board of Beverly Rotary.
Oh, really? I'll have to look into her. I've just been informed that we have 3 minutes to go. So if you would like to say, either one of you would like to give a brief summary of what we've been talking about, feel free. Bob, you can go first.
Well, I think if we're going to criticize, we also have a responsibility to make some recommendations. My first would be to change immigration laws. My second is put efforts into our most vulnerable population in the country, those from Appalachia, those from the inner city in places like Chicago that they have no place to go. And third, I would like to see a merit system as it pertains to immigration, in which we are bringing in people that have high skills that can contribute, okay, to our society, rather than a high percent of uneducated immigrants. I mean, I feel for the plight that they're in with all the wars going on in the Mideast and so forth. But at the same time, we have a responsibility to take care of our own first, and then whatever else we can handle, fine.
Elliot?
Well, very quickly, I agree with Bob. We can't be all things to all people. We just can't. So go back to the laws which say, come in, but we can choose who comes in because of their education, what they can give us, what they can contribute to our society. We can't be all things to all people, otherwise we have no borders.
Right. And I would like to say, first of all, thank you for coming on the show.
It was great. I enjoyed it. And you guys are great.
Thank you.
So now you have to invite me back.
Okay, we will do that. You're invited. And I would just like to say to the people of Beverly, anyone else that is watching, if you really want to do something, contact your local elected officials, contact Congressman Seth Moulton, and also try getting in touch with our 2 senators and present your views and ask them what are they doing about illegal immigrants coming into the country. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.